We are live with Kyle Whissel. Is that how I pronounce your last name? First of all, I should ask you that.
You got it, dude. All good.
Awesome. Cool. We met on Clubhouse, and I actually wanted to do this conversation because as we started talking on the back end, I realized we know a lot of the same people. You've spoken on some monster stages with some people I respect a lot. Actually, fun fact, your boy Tom Ferry was in a room with me last week, and I DM'd him privately and said he's had a big impact on my business unbeknownst to him. I don't know him directly, but I've implemented his 555 over the years and a lot of his concepts. So, rather than just making this a, formal introduction, why don't we just jump right into it? Like, how did you get involved in speaking to begin with?
Yeah, I actually got involved through Tom, I think in the beginning. Growing up, like I was always that person who hated public speaking, always had a huge fear of it in school. Like every time you'd have to give a presentation, it terrified me. I'd call in sick, like so I could get out of doing presentations. I damn near pissed my pants, even like thinking about getting on stage and speaking. So I always hated it growing up, but I'm the kind of guy, like as an adult now, like if you're scared of public speaking, like get on the biggest stage you can and speak publicly. If you're scared of heights, like go fly up in a plane and jump out of it. If you're scared of the ocean, like jump in a cage and swim with sharks. Like whatever you're scared of, the best thing you could do is just face it head on. And so for me, just knowing that like I had this public speaking fear, I just made a commitment, like every opportunity that I get, I'm going to get up and speak. And I'm going to tell everybody that I want to speak. Even though it terrifies me to do it, I just know the only way I'm going to get over it is to do it and do it on the biggest stages that I can. So I would start speaking at our local like broker open house type thing where there's like 10 or 20 people in a room, and then speaking at office meetings. And before you know it, I'm on Tom Ferry's stage speaking in front of like 6,000 or 7,000 people. And what's funny is like the first time I spoke on a big stage like that, I knew I needed like a vice. I needed something to like make me feel comfortable. So I had one of my team members bring me a beer to drink on stage because it just made me feel comfortable. The fact that one, I had a beer in my hand, and two, that it was a beer that it would like calm me. So literally the whole presentation, I'm hanging out drinking a beer on stage talking in front of 7,000 people. And then from that point forward, like the fear is really been gone. But I look at it as like, it's a lot like skydiving, because you say you like commit to doing it. Somebody's like, yeah, do you want to speak on our stage? Yeah, I'd love to. And it's not a big deal to say yes. And then all of a sudden, like the day starts getting closer and you're like, oh shit, did I really commit to doing this? Like, do I really want to do it? And then you see the room, maybe you see a picture on social media of how big the room is and all the chairs, and you're like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I don't know. And then they'll have like a walkthrough the morning of or the day before, and you actually like physically look at how big the stage is and how big the room is. And it's like, I don't think I can do this. I don't know if I want to do this. You start having like second thoughts. And then the day of, you're back in the green room and everybody else is out there and they're like, oh, that was fun. That was easy. And you're just like shaking, you're terrified. And then it's like, finally your time to go, and you like walk out. And just like skydiving, when you first jump out of that plane, like it's terrifying. You feel like your stomach's going to drop and it's going to be like the craziest thing ever. But when you jump out of the plane, you actually realize it's like sticking your head out of a sunroof, and you're like, oh, this is kind of cool. And you just start looking around, enjoying the view. And it's the same thing speaking on a big stage like that. Like you're terrified for the first minute or two, and then you realize like, oh, this isn't so bad. I can do this. And then you're like, you know what, this is actually kind of fun. And you just get rolling, you get comfortable. And so I would really relate like big stage speaking to skydiving. It's so similar.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I think one of my favorite things about this conversation is everybody looks at what people are doing online and they get these self-defeating narratives. There's no way I could do that. There's no way I can speak that eloquently. And, they put a lot of undue pressure on themselves, and they never take that first step to begin with to talk at the caravan meeting or get involved, or something as simple as Clubhouse and jumping on the app and just talking on stage. You get paralyzed in fear on that application. But I think that's a great entry point into what you're doing. I think the reason I asked you that question was to give people that baseline of, okay, this is what this dude's doing now, but let's go back into the backstory now. Let's talk about who you are, what market you work in, what you love about what you do, and extrapolate that and bring some value to the audience. So you're in sunny San Diego, definitely not London, Ontario with the snow. What's the weather there like, and what's your real estate market like?
Yeah, so it is, I think, 75 degrees, perfectly sunny. We're planning on going to the beach this weekend, which is crazy, right? I mean, we're in such different worlds. So it's a fantastic place to live. We do pay for it. Our taxes here are through the roof, and it's kind of crazy. It's the most expensive state in the entire country to live in, with the most expensive state taxes on top of the cost of living. So, I mean, a cookie cutter house here right now is selling for 650 for just a cookie cutter house. So it's kind of crazy. Um,
Surprisingly though, like our average price used to be like 240. It's now over 600 for
yeah.
a cutter house, right? So the world's changing. Did you actually grow up in San Diego?
Yeah, luckily I'm born and raised here. My mom and dad were born and raised in Buffalo, New York, so actually not too far from you.
I was gonna say.
So they're born and raised there, but luckily they moved here a few years before they had me. So I didn't have to grow up in Buffalo in the snow. But I go back to Buffalo like once every couple of years just to visit family and everything, because most of my family's still back there. But I've been fortunate enough to be born and raised here in San Diego.
I got PTSD from a couple Bills games and tailgating and sitting in freezing cold weather. I would not recommend that, but I would at the same time, because doing something uncomfortable like that, I mean, the memories are etched into my brain, right?
Did you jump through a table while you were there?
I didn't know. I'm a good Christian boy now. Back in the day, I mean, I lived my life like everybody else and learned my lessons and trying to spread that light now too. So that's hilarious. So Buffalo's not far. Actually, that was our access point to the States. We would actually go over where Niagara Falls is, and I would
Yep.
frequently work in Niagara and go over to Buffalo for different things too. So that's interesting that we have that synergy. How did you actually get into real estate?
My dad was in the commercial real estate field. I hated real estate my whole life growing up because my dad was always so busy. He was always, showing up late or missing things because of real estate. And so, like, I always had a negative association with it. But when I was in college, and I think I was 20 years old at the time, he kept pushing me, you got to buy something, you got to buy something, you got to buy something. So I did. I flipped it. I made 17 grand in 3 months. And at the same time, I just gotten a nickel an hour raise at the movie theater I was working at. And I was like, 17 grand or nickel, 17 grand or nickel. I was like, all right, dad, let's talk about this real estate thing. So he hooked me by pushing me to buy something. And so I worked with him on the commercial side. We mostly did apartment buildings and a little bit of retail. And that was fantastic. We kind of found a niche for ourselves, helping investors buy apartment buildings. Then they would gut them and basically flip the entire building simultaneously, and then sell each unit off individually as a condo. And that was fantastic. I mean, they were making tons of money. We were making tons of money. It was great. But the cities just kept tightening up the rules more and more on that, to where it became almost impossible to convert apartments into condos. And so now my investors all have a ton of cash, but they couldn't buy buildings anymore because they couldn't convert them. So then my investors started looking. This was when we had a lot of foreclosures here in the States. And my investors started looking around at like these short sale listings, these foreclosure listings. And I would see like, oh, wow, this girl's got 100 short sales. This guy's got 150, foreclosure listings. And I'm looking at commercial and I was like, commercial's cool. We get these really big checks, but we get them like once every month or two. Where the residential side, these guys are getting a check every day or two. And so I just saw the opportunity to make the shift away from dad at that point. And so I said, Dad, this has been fun. I really appreciate everything I learned, but I'm going to go do my own thing. And so I started my own residential brokerage. And that was in like 2008, kind of like right as the shit was hitting the
Perfect
fan.
time. I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
it was perfect. But right, I did it because of the foreclosures. Like I saw the opportunity to partner with these banks and be their go-to agent. So, when somebody was in trouble, couldn't afford their mortgage, like we could come and help them, which was cool, and get incentivized to help people out of a tough situation. And then also the banks, if they did foreclose on properties, they would just call us and say, hey, Kyle, I got a new listing for you. Hey, Kyle, here's 5 new listings. Hey, Kyle, I got a portfolio of 10. Can you help me with these? So I just from like day one, I looked at how do I get streams of listings as opposed to like, how do I sell John's house, who refers me to Mary, who refers me to Sally? Like it's just one at a time. So I'm always thinking about how do I get streams of opportunity, not just single opportunities. And so that was kind of the initial way of doing that for me.
Let me ask you a question with that then. I'm kind of curious on my end. How do you handle the stream of business as it comes in? Because if they're sending you 10, 15, 20 listings at a time, what systems did you put in place to manage onboarding those, executing, having a high service delivery standard? Because that's a lot of properties to manage.
Yeah, so I've always been very admin heavy in my company. So right now we have 30, just over 30 agents. I have 17 admins. So I've always understood the value of having a really solid admin team. We refer to our admins as the glue because let's be honest, like most of us realtors are a hot freaking mess. And the admins are the ones that hold us together. And if it weren't for them, we'd fall apart. So I've always understood the value of admins. I know there's a lot of agents that try to run really lean and mean, like, I don't have any admins. We just take care of it all. It's like, you're going to hit a ceiling. You can only go so far. When you start to have that support behind you, it allows you to break through that ceiling and hit new levels. So I've always just been very, very admin heavy and very systems heavy. Anything that could be automated or delegated, I'm all about that. So automate, delegate. So at that time, we found what are the best systems available. Like I found who is the best short sale coaching company out there. At the time, it was called Short Sale Genius. I partnered with them, learned exactly how to do short sales and what their systems were. And then it was who's best on the foreclosure side of things. There was a system called eBroker House, which was like the best system out there for that. So I don't ever try to like reinvent the wheel. Like who's the best at this? Who's the best at this? Let me align with them. Let me, integrate their systems and let's run. And right now, Tom Ferry, right? He's the best coach there is. Let me align with him, integrate his systems, and we're off to the races. So I think a lot of people try to do everything on their own as opposed to like do what's smart. If you watch the Super Bowl, Bruce Arians, the coach of the Buccaneers, when they asked about it, he was like, we wanted to win a Super Bowl. What did we do? We found somebody who's been there before. And so we went and got Tom Brady, and here we are winning the freaking trophy. But that was his thing, is we wanted to get to the Super Bowl. So we went and found somebody who'd been there before. Same thing, right? I wanted to crush it with short sales. I found somebody who crushed it with short sales before. I wanted to find somebody who's crushed it with foreclosure listings before. So you just go find those people, lean on them, and that's how you grow.
Yeah, I echo that 1,000%. I met a dude last week that builds $30 million properties in I think your area or whatnot. And he was a builder, and I picked his brain for a solid 20 minutes in terms of how he likes dealing with brokers, what he likes about the relationship, what he doesn't like about the relationship, where we can bring value, how they deal with clients. At that price point, you're going to deal with some very high maintenance clients, but how you can serve them and systemize it. So everything you're dropping, I hope people have a pen and paper handy, because you can take something that takes 20 clicks and make it take 2. You're heading in a better direction day after day. So you got out of the commercial real estate business completely, or did you still have a book of business that you referred back with your dad, or are you mainly doing residential right now?
Pretty much purely focused on residential. I actually just put a building under contract to buy for myself. So it was kind of nice because I have that commercial background. So a lot of my friends are all buying buildings right now, but they've all had to hire a broker to help them with it. Where I was like, I know how to do this. I'll just do it myself. And now I'm getting to pocket the $50,000 commission on the building as opposed to having to pay it to a broker. So I just got a $50,000 discount on the building. So that came in handy. But we just try to stay focused. I think some people try to do a little bit of everything. And I think that's not the ideal way to go, because then you end up doing a little bit of everything and you never finish anything. So I'm big on just being singularly focused on what it is that we do in our business, because there's so many shiny objects. I mean, if we'll just stick with the Tom Ferry theme, like if you go to his main conference, his Success Summit, you're going to walk away with like 20 pages of notes. Like, what the hell do you do with 20 pages of notes? Like it almost does more harm than good. So I'm really big on staying singularly focused on, just this is the objective. This is the North Star that we're going toward this year. And if something's not in alignment with that North Star, we're not going to do it. It's going to throw us off course. So we just got to stay on course and know what that vision is. And I think a lot of people screw up there because they don't have a vision. Or if they do have a vision, it's all in here and they've never articulated it out of their head. Nobody even knows that that's what their vision is. So when you can actually take the vision that's in your head and articulate it so that everybody in your company knows what the hell the vision is, then people can all row in the same direction. But if you haven't articulated your vision, you're all on a boat and somebody's rowing this way over here and somebody's rowing backwards over here and you're just spinning around in freaking circles. But if you articulate the vision, everybody knows what it is. And you could ask anybody in the company, what's the vision this year? And every person knows it. Everybody knows what the core values are. Everybody knows what are the rocks like that are going to get us on track. Now we all row in that same direction. We get there way faster.
You almost have to over communicate, just like with clients in terms of what you're doing to actually move the ball forward. Same thing with your company and your team. If you don't tell them, they just don't know, right? And they'll develop narratives like anybody else as to what you're doing and why you're doing it, but they don't understand the vision. Have you read Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink?
Yeah, huge
Yeah.
fan of it.
There's a great story in there that, when they were talking about the organizational structure, and that one lady that was in charge of the two teams, the one was like the R&D team and one was the sales team, was one of my favorite stories in that book, because both team was operating kind of independently. She was making decisions. Nobody understood why she was making decisions. When Jocko asked her, she explained it in like 3 minutes. It was very clear. And he's like, well, have you told that to your team? And she's like, no, like they should know that. They're smart. But if you don't articulate it, you only really have to blame yourself, I think, right?
Yeah, the biggest thing we did in 2020 is we implemented a system called EOS. It's the Entrepreneurial Operating System. Has nothing to do with real estate. It's just purely built for entrepreneurs because there's not a lot of coaching of how to actually run a business. Like within our space in real estate, there's a lot of coaching on like how to go generate a lead, how to convert a lead, things like that, new apps, new systems, new programs. But there's not a lot that teaches you how to actually structure a business. And EOS gave us a ton of structure over the last year. And a huge part of EOS is getting that vision out there. And so it just puts it into a simple 2-page business plan that makes it very, very easy for everybody in the company to know what the hell is going on and where are we going with things. And so if you are, listening or watching this and you need to get your vision out of your head and you need a system to run your business on, check out EOS. The book that'll explain it all to you is called Traction by Gino Wickman. So you could read.
I'm pulling up the book at the same time. I love it.
Yeah, you could read that book and that'll explain what EOS is. But that's been massive for our business. I mean, we're running so much more efficiently. We're knocking so many things off the list. Like we have a very clear organizational structure. Everybody knows who does what, who do they report to, who do they ask questions to, because if you don't have that good organizational structure, somebody's asking the marketing person, simultaneously the operations person, simultaneously the HR person. They have 3 really important people all working on the same thing, but nobody knows it because you don't have the structure. So when you put the right structure in, it just, everybody can stay focused. They stay in their lane. Everybody else trusts their lane. It all comes together into this, beautiful thing. And I mean, last year we had our best year in history. We did over 265 million in sales last year, which is massive. And we had over 40% growth in a single year.
And you manage it. How big's your team? Like how many people are selling with you?
Yeah. So we're running just over 30 agents and 17 admins right now. So we're running 45, 50 people.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though, that you have almost like one admin for every 2 agents too. We're super, infrastructure heavy here as well. Probably more. I mean, we have the same admins as teams that are, 190 agents, and there's only like 20 of us here. But I think lean and mean and finding people that fit in your culture is literally everything. So if I'm in San Diego and I'm coming to work with you, what's the culture like in your environment?
Yeah, you know what's cool is this building we bought is like the definition of our culture, where it's young, it's fun, it's hip, and it's doing it differently than everybody else. When everybody else is zigging, we're zagging. We really want to do things differently and stand out from the crowd. We're really big on brand. I think brand is something that a lot of people underestimate, and building their personal brands. Like a lot of people don't do that. Canada is so weird to me. I know we talked about this a little bit on Clubhouse, but like up there, all the agents think if I'm not with Remax or Royal LePage, like I can't be a realtor. It's so weird. We're down here. I mean, in San Diego, there's got to be 500 different brokers just in one city, where like your whole country, if you're not with one of those 2, like you're not in business. It's really interesting how Canada and the States are so different. Because here, like I used to run my own brokerage, and that's like pretty normal. Like a ton of people run their own brokerage, but up there it's so different. There's a lot of dependency on the corporate brand up there, where here it's way more focused on the personal brand. It's really interesting how the 2 countries are so different.
Yeah, you're literally preaching to the choir, right? Because I was with the corporate brand. We left super quick because we were not cut out to work for a corporate brand. The way Shannon and I were built, what we do here at Prime is probably more similar to what you do in terms of infrastructure. We're not in the business of hiring agents, to be quite frank with you. We're in the business of selling real estate and then supporting the team from an entrepreneurial perspective, helping them build reoccurring revenue streams, like building an actual business versus, being an agent that's with a large brokerage, which I'm still friends with a lot of those guys. And you're not wrong. Quite often when people come out of education in real estate and they contact me to work at Prime, fortunately I say we're not hiring, and I send them to those people because that's a business that they're in, which is great because that's what they do, right? But I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, where there's a misconception in the industry that, if you're not with one of those brands, you're not in business, where when I audit consumers, they have no idea who the agent actually works for. They know the agent, they know the relationship that they have with that agent and the service that they're getting. And now I think with the access to information, the ability to control the narrative a little bit more and bring people into our world, I'm an open book. I'll tell you everything about how we operate at Prime. We are seeing a lot more conversations that when I left the national, our business grew, 200 to 300% year over year, because we were locally owned and operated, right? And we were hiring local people and they knew who we were in our community. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if it's going the route of the States. And I know, we're not going to get into brand politics or anything else, but I know you're with a digital brand that gives you the ability to be flexible and do different things too. And I think that's coming to challenge the norm in terms of what a brokerage actually is. And I think there's a million different models out there, and it's what's right for the actual team and the person that's working within the team, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love with EXP, like they let us brand ourselves. It's funny, they've actually said, like, if we could allow you to do your signs without EXP on them, we would. Like, so I love the fact that they support us building our personal brand. They're not worried about themselves, where some of the corporate brands, I mean, it's the brand and identity guidelines, like 100+ pages.
Sure.
And it's like, you have to have this exact sign, this size, these fonts. Our name is this big. Your name is this big. And like, they're branding the company. They're not branding themselves, which to me is just crazy. Even if I was with one of the big brands, I'd have to be with one that gives me the autonomy to do what I want, because I want the brand to be Whissel. I don't want the brand to be EXP, Royal LePage, Remax. Like, screw them. They're who I clear my deals through. I want the brand to be Whissel. So regardless if I'm with any one of those companies, I'm branding Whissel. If you're with one of the big boxes and you brand everything around the balloon, and now you leave, like, what are you left with?
Yeah. And I mean, again, different business models for different people, right? Like there's people that operate within that infrastructure and they want that backing in that franchise, and there's a ton of value in there. So, definitely friends with those people. And I understand why they operate like they do, but I think it's just,
I give you props for stepping out, man, because I think the mold has to be broken up there. So I think it's cool that you've identified that and you've done what everybody else is scared to do, and to step out and do your own thing. But I think you're seeing the rewards of that, of having your own identity and being able to do it, in a unique and different way. So props to you, man.
Positions too, right? Like now that I look back and some of the people that I've worked with in the past and I've had conversations with them about it, I see how they're looking to adapt and try and service their agents, when they have a certain number. I'm aware of what my capacity is and what I can do for my team. But we walk through it like anybody else. Like up until last year, we were very much like, well, this is the norm, Prime's the brand and that's the logo and this, that, and the other. We made a big switch last year where we're all about our agents. Like Prime is the system. I want you to know that we have the best system on the planet, in my opinion. And we help the agents brand themselves, because each one of them is a unique person, right? Like Victor, borderline professional mountain biker, travels all over the world, amazing at condos. That's what he does. Nathan's music, fitness, and Noah St. Thomas knows the London area incredibly well, works with a ton of investors. Mark Tyson, the guy you'll play hockey and golf with, and grew up in Old North, knows that area. Like that's where we're making a big shift, and we're super agent focused in terms of, all right, how do we help establish that even more, help you with your brand and give you more. It's counterintuitive because you would think, well, I'm giving away brand equity, because technically if I spend money branding you and then you get a lead directly and I'm not getting a referral cut from that, I should get that money. It's the old way of thinking, right? Versus if I empower my agents and hype them up and make them feel like $1 million, well, they're going to come back to the house and we're going to work together on stuff. They're going to realize I don't need every nickel and dime from them, but we're just going to have more fun together. They're going to be in a better mood. Clients are going to have fun working with them, and we're just going to do more business and we're going to have fun doing it. Right. It sounds like that's what you guys are doing in San Diego too.
Yeah. And the thing is that it sounds like you have this down too, is we got to understand that we work for the agents, whether you're a broker or a team leader. Like, we work for our agents. Our agents don't work for us. Because what happens if our agents don't sell any homes? I don't make any money. You don't make any money, right? So in reality, who's working for who? I think a lot of people get it twisted that they work for the brand, when in reality, the brand works for them. Like, our job is to support our agents, our team members, right? Like, I want to do everything I can to help them succeed, because that's how I succeed, is through them. The more they succeed, the more I succeed. It's not the opposite. It's not the more Kyle succeeds, the more they succeed. It doesn't work that way. So the more we can do to support our agents and help them and build up their brands, the more we're going to benefit from that. And I think people just sometimes get it twisted in their head of how this relationship works. We're nothing without our agents. If we were just 17 admins and no agents, we'd be losing $100,000 a month. Like there'd be no money coming in, just money going out. So we work for the agents. So everything that we can do, whether you're watching this and you're a team leader or a broker owner, like the sooner you understand that you work for your agents and start figuring out what can you do to support them, right? It sounds like you got it down where you got somebody who's the condo specialist. Maybe you have somebody who's focuses on high rises. Maybe you have somebody who helps sell new developments of condos. Then you have somebody else who focuses on like first time buyer condos. Like figure out what are each individual agent's niches, and then how can you help and support them to do the maximum amount of production they can in that field. But it's about supporting them because we work for them. And the more we support them, the more money they bring in, the more money we bring in. We win through our agents. And I think too many people get it twisted. They get this like, I am the broker, you work for me, you do what I say. Shut up. That's stupid. That's a terrible way to think.
Yeah, that's not, I mean, the old factory that our parents' age was, you get a job, you work your way up to upper management, and then you get paid, and then you get a retirement fund, you go from there. And then there was a shift where it was like, okay, now you get a job, go to school at the same time, so you can skip that work, jump right into middle or upper management, do that work there for 40 years, get a payout. And then now the world that we're in, it doesn't even exist anymore. You can get the degree, you're not going through that same process, and you're having to kind of cut your own path. And truthfully, we're all entrepreneurs. So the way that I think about it is we're not really task delegators anymore. It's not like, no, you come here, you do this, 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 and this. I get a paycheck and I'll see you later. I'm the boss. It's exactly what you said. It's the servant leadership mindset that I think is winning in the world today. And it's nice to see, because I also think from a community perspective, people are starting to see behind the veil, the access to information, the ability for people to have a voice. Another girl I'll mention on my team, Lindsay Gowan. She was an investor. She went to school for design. I met her at an investors conference. We did a couple flips and properties for her. She killed it. Young girl. And I told her, I'm like, go get your license. Like, you're built for this. And she's killing it now. She actually started doing a clubhouse room, and she's launching a podcast for women empowerment, because she's got an interesting story to tell, where she never wants to be in a position where she's beholden to anybody else. She wants to be independently wealthy. She wants to show people how she's doing it and take people along for a ride. That never happened previously, because we lived in a world where everybody was scared about the competition. If I tell you my secrets about how I buy my apartment buildings, well, you're going to go buy them. There's going to be none left for me. It's not a real thing, is it, Kyle?
It's not, dude. You know what you do well too, and it's you're telling stories. I think you've learned this strategy is like, you don't just say like, oh, one of my agents this. And this is like one of the most important things I've learned in sales is you're referring to individuals by name. You're telling their background, and you're telling what they do. Like if you're watching this, like learn from him, learn from Justin. Like this is smart. This is when you can tell stories, when you actually start to humanize things and drop names and drop situations. We were talking like, because our market's insane right now. Our average days on market is 9. I activated a property of mine that I'm selling last night, and there's been 13 showings scheduled already. Like it's crazy. Insane.
We're in the same, dude. Like I can promise you, we're 2 weeks of inventory right now. That's where we're sitting.
Yeah. So the thing is, like we were talking in our office meeting yesterday, how do we set expectations for our buyers? And so what we've got to do is say, you know what, I was working with, the Smith family. They actually just relocated here from Arizona. He's in construction and she's a nurse. And, they were running in the same situation. They actually wanted to buy where you want to buy. Tell the story of somebody else. It's amazing what that'll do to your business when you actually, mention people by name and their background before you drop other info. So I just want to acknowledge you. I think you're doing, like I've watched you do it 3 times now. And it's solid. Like
I actually like it, man, honestly, because when I tell the stories, like I'm excited to share the fact that she's doing what she's doing. And Victor with the bike riding, like I got a bad hip, I can't ride mountain bikes, but he's doing it, so I'm living vicariously through him. You're doing your thing in San Diego. Now I've actually told your story to a few people I know, and we don't even know each other that well yet, but now that you're part of my world and my community, I think we all have these intertwining stories, and we share a lot of similarities. But unless I tell the story, I can't associate with somebody like you, right?
Yeah.
If I
Because
share
people they need to hear somebody who either looks like them, talks like them, same background as them, same history as them. Like, I know we'll just stick with this Tom Ferry theme. Like what he's always done the first day of his event, he does this thing called Tom X, which is like a TEDx, tape, and he'll throw like 10 agents up on stage. And some of them, like, I'm a super tactical, like, here's the 5 things you need to do. Boom, 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 boom. And then he'll have the next person come on and it'll be a female
Yeah.
and she'll just tell a 30-minute story. And then you'll have, you know, a female come on who's super tactical. And then you'll have a guy come on who was like beaten as a child. You'll have a girl come on who was raped as a child, like
Yeah.
with these different varying stories. And what it does is it gets everybody in the audience to connect, like, oh, she's been through the same shit that I've been through.
Yep.
So if she can do it, I can do it. Oh, you know what? I love the way that that guy was just so tactful because that's my style. Like, I'm ready. And so he's used the first day of his event just to get 10 different people, totally different backgrounds, stories, styles. But everybody needs to see somebody that looks like them, talks like them, has been through what they've been through. Now their brain is open to receive that information. And so the same thing in our sales business, when we can help somebody like, hey, you know what? I actually just worked with the Smith family who was in the same shoes as you, as opposed to like, oh, I just worked with somebody just like you. When it's the Smith family and you tell how the Smith family story is similar to the Whissel family story, like, that it's so powerful what that does in your sales skills. And so a lot of people think they need to be like the best salesperson. I would argue the best storyteller is the best salesperson.
I do agree with you 1,000%. I want to work with people that I want to hang out with because the work ends up being a smaller part of the transaction. I was in a couple of rooms this morning chatting about this with some other high producers, and I love learning from them and hearing the same things over and over because it anchors that it is true and that is how it operates. And let's talk about social feeds for a second, right? Just to give a little bit of context for people. When everybody gets paralyzed in fear about posting online, I'm looking at your feed right now and I saw the weekend post and I'm laughing. It's very clean. You do a really good job online. The reason you do a good job online is I know who you are when I look at your feed. Nobody wants to see, oh, look, I won this award. Look, I sold this house. Look, the dry real estate stuff that we only post for other real estate agents because they're the only ones who really care anyways, tends to not get traction. When I made a shift on my stuff, it was bringing you into my world. I separated myself from my company brand and system so that the system's clean for the agents and everybody that works here. But you go on my personal brand, you go through, you'll see all the crazy stuff that I'm up to. But maybe there's something in there that makes you associate with me and say, hey, dude, you live in a beach town? You guys actually paddleboard? Because I'm in Canada. You think it's like this all year round, but it's really not, right? All of a sudden, we're sharing stories about different things. And I guarantee you, we probably have mutual interests that we don't even know about yet. And that's the exciting part about life because, I love listening to you. And that's the other part of storytelling is I'm not just waiting to talk. I didn't script any of this and I never do because I genuinely want to know. I love the fact that you got out of your box and you're speaking on stage at such a high level with absolute killers. I love that you made a shift out of a business that you had established and you got into a business that you saw an opportunity in, but then you didn't just fall into it and overpromise clients. You built systems to actually execute at a high level, and then you refine those systems and you keep refining it. So your progress and where you're at today is not a result of you just being lucky and your dad was in the business and you lived in such a hot market. It was constant growth and going back to the well and sharpening your sword. So you must be doing that on a fairly regular basis, I'm assuming, right? Through like goal setting or yearly reviews. Like, what's your process to do that?
Yeah, so I mean, EOS really, really helps us with that. So part of it is we set a 5-year, 3-year, and a 1-year goal. And they refer to them as a plan, a picture, and target. So we set all of those out. So we start out with like the 5-year, and then we go to the 3-year, then we go to the 1-year, then we go to quarters, and then in the quarters we focus on rocks. And so the rocks could either be individual rocks that just I work on, or it could be like a company rock that involves me plus my director of marketing and my director of operations. We collaborate on that rock. But each person takes on 2 to 3 rocks per quarter, but the rocks have to be in alignment with what the annual goals are. And so first we set the rock. So let's just say, for example, we want to implement the CSU system, which is like a really rad system for tracking and measuring what's happening in your business. So like that could be the rock, is to implement CSU in Q1. Then we put, what are all the milestones that have to happen along the way over that first quarter. So then we're looking at, okay, by January 7th, I need to sign up for CSU. By January 14th, I need to complete, the initial training video. By January 21st, I need to do this. And like, you're setting all these milestones of what you're going to do over that quarter. But those rocks are the most important thing in the business for that quarter. And each person in the company of the leadership team focuses on what are those rocks that they're working on. So like mine right now is I'm building out our LMS, our learning management system. So I've gotten out of production now. And so my big Q1 rock is take everything in my head that I've done over the last 15 years, put it into a learning management system because we're getting ready to scale up in this new building we're buying. And so I want to take all of the knowledge I have, put it into a system that now can be used by every new agent who comes into the company. So like my Q1 rock is to build out this learning management system for onboarding new agents. So like that's an example of a rock. And so then within it, I have, certain milestones like meet with each of the leadership team members, make sure that I get their input on what needs to be a part of that program. And then I have it in certain milestones of what percentages of the learning management system have to be completed and by when. So we're really big on that. And then we have weekly meetings where we go over where we at on the rocks, and we all, mutually hold each other accountable to where we're at. And if somebody's off track on their rock, then the rest of the company, the leadership team, their job is to help us get back on track. What do you need? Sometimes you need a kick in the ass, right? You need somebody to hold you accountable. And sometimes you need a sounding board. Sometimes you need some physical support. Like I need this picked up, or I need something to happen. So by having those weekly meetings, that really helps out. And the meetings within the EOS system, I call it a level 10 meeting. They're so structured of what happens that it's just ridiculously effective, because we used to have these meetings, and like I look at what our meetings were 2 years ago versus now, and they were a freaking joke. Like everybody'd get on the Zoom, like, all right, so what's up, guys? What are we going to talk about today? What a waste of freaking time. So now everything is just so structured down to the minute. What we get done in a 90-minute meeting was like what we'd get done in a whole quarter. And we're getting that done on a weekly basis. Like it just moves the needle so far forward. So yeah, again, I can't say enough about EOS. I don't make any money. I don't have any affiliation or anything with it, but it's been a game changer, dude. The other thing with EOS that was really cool for us is that now there's the thing that's missing for a lot of us is an integrator. For big people like us that have big visions and want to make big things happen. The problem a lot of us have is we go to these different conferences and watch podcasts and webinars and YouTube videos, and we're like, all right, cool, we're going to do this. And then we get the idea, and then two, we integrate the idea into the business. But the problem is half the ideas are stupid. Nobody told us they were stupid. And so now we're implementing stupid things into the business.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple problems that happen. One, we're constantly implementing new things. Nobody really vetted these things.
Sure. So
half of them work, half of them don't. Then the second problem is because we're the one who integrated them into the business, now the people are coming back to us with the questions on these systems that we've integrated. So what EOS does is it inserts an integrator between me and the rest of the company. So now my job as a visionary is to go have these 20 million ideas, put them into my integrator's hands. His job is to sift through the 20, find the one that makes sense, integrate it into the business in an effective manner. And then because he's the one who integrates it, he's the one who gets the questions. So he insulates me from being the one who gets hammered with questions all the time, so that I can stay focused on the big picture and the big vision for the company. So that's another part of it that's been huge for us.
So the integrator, is that a specific person within your organization?
Yeah, and they would more commonly, like in a normal corporate world, be the COO of the company.
Oh, okay.
So it goes visionary on top, which is me, integrator, and then my 4-person leadership team. So then there's a director of marketing, sales, operations, and finance, and then everybody below them. But now there's just a super clear structure of how everything flows up and down. And I get to stay focused on the big picture stuff, which is what I love and which is what motivates me. Like, hey, we're going to get this new building. Here's the vision I have of what we're going to do. Yeah. And then he'll integrate it and make it happen.
So question for you. Is this the building?
That is our current, one of our offices.
Oh, okay.
I just pulled so we do have the top floor of that office right now.
Pretty epic.
Yeah. So that's one of them. The new building, I can pull it up if you want. The new building is super rad. It's got like this.
I'll add a screen sharing ability for you too while we do that before we wrap this up. I'd love to see it. I love it. It's, getting out of your
box. It's got this like rad mid-century vibe to it, which is obviously super hot right now. So I will pull this up.
I like it, man. I appreciate it. I've gotten so much value from this conversation already, brother. Like it's unbelievable. Everything that you shared, I'm going to be definitely looking at that and integrating a lot of that stuff into what we do here. I think it's good to be able to put some systems in place to provide clarity for the team and structure as well. That's a wicked building.
Yeah, it's just a super. So this is in like this really cool little walkable village area of our town. So we'll have a ton of foot traffic, and then it's got that rad barrel ceiling on it,
Yeah.
which again goes with our vibe. Like we don't want to be the traditional stuffy, suited up real estate office. So this we envision it being both a real estate office and an event space. So we want to kind of make it a hub for the community, so we can constantly be doing events in there. We can allow different community organizations to use the space and do charity fundraisers and art walks and stuff like that.
Yeah, man.
We'll have a podcast studio, green screen room, like all kinds of fun stuff in there. So I'm excited to build this
Hang a
thing
set
out.
of rings from the rafters. You could turn it a section of it into a gym if you really wanted to as well.
Right? It's gonna be fun, man.
Give you an idea. Well, honestly, that's what this space is too, right? This is our clubhouse, but quite frankly, like we hope when COVID's not happening, we host events here. We do a lot of things over and beyond real estate. It's just a place that we happen to come and collaborate. But I think again, we can get into another hour discussion about how office space is changing in the industry and offering flex space rather than just a place to sit down and have a phone. I think you got to provide a little bit more. But appreciate you, brother. I'm going to give you my platform to tell anything you want to tell to the audience. If you had a billboard out there and you could put anything you want on it, what message do you want to leave with my people today?
Oh man, that's a big one. But I'll tell you honestly, the key to my success is, and this is a Gary Vee quote, but it's ideas are shit, execution is the game.
Yeah.
So the number one thing that separates me and people like you is that when we do go to these conferences and end up with 20 pages of notes, it's not this book that we fill out and we come home and it's just like now in some pile that we never touch ever again. Like I'm the guy who's executing immediately on every single thing that I learned. I could see that you are, right? Literally, as I'm talking about some of the stuff, you're pulling it up so that you can execute on it when we're done. Like execution is everything in this industry. And so if you're watching this, if there's any ideas, right, that you got from this, like I encourage you to just execute on them immediately. Like don't think about them, don't kick them around, like execute. The sooner you execute on these ideas that you have, the more successful you're going to be with it. So that would be, if I could do a billboard, it's that.
Yeah. I appreciate that, brother. I mean, implementation over everything, right? So thank you for your time, Kyle. I'm sure we're going to cross paths again. I'll send you all the assets for this so you can repurpose it on your content. Everybody go follow Kyle. All the links will be in the notes below. And thanks again, brother. I appreciate you.
All right. Good times, man.
All right. See you, brother.